11Alive News starts now.
It is 10 a.m. here on 11Alive Plus. Great to be with you on this January 30th. Shaping up to be a very busy Friday morning here from the Streaming Center. A lot of breaking news to get to, and we'll do so in just a few minutes. But I know top of the mind for all of you right now is what kind of weather we're going to be facing this weekend. Chester McNeil standing by. Cold and some snow.
Yeah. Not a great combination. It's going to be really raw. If you know what that feels like. Starting tomorrow. Today, really a mild afternoon. And then the bottom falls out tonight, and we really won't warm up above the freezing mark really all weekend long going into Monday morning. So prepare yourself, folks. We prepared a 11Alive weather impact alert for you. And starting on tomorrow, it's going to last through Monday. We're talking about very, very, very cold temperatures. And then you got to throw some snow in that as well. So, of course, where the snow falls will be slippery roads. And then you got to bundle up because if you're going to be going out, you're going to feel the bite, okay? We're looking at 11Alive weather impact alerts for the snow. And we think the snow will be heaviest over toward the east. So let's say Dawson County, Forsyth County, Gwinnett County eastward is where we have that winter storm warning. You're looking at anywhere between 2 and 4 inches of snowfall there. And from Atlanta over toward George's Rome, down toward Macon, the blue shade counties, that is where we see up to an inch, maybe locally 2 inches in some spots. Or anything, I should say, from a dusting to an inch. And maybe some heavier spots in a few places. We're talking about a powdery snow. I was talking to the National Weather Service this morning. This is not going to be the type of snow where you have snowballs or you're able to make snowmen. But you can go outside and enjoy it if you can. I'm sure the kids will beg you. They'll beg you to get out there with them. Now again, our models have been consistent in showing the heavier totals over toward the Athens area. That's where you see that dark blue in there. You're looking at up to about 3 inches there. That's why we're saying anywhere between 2 and 4 inches. The further east you go, if you go over towards, say, Columbia, South Carolina, that's where you're looking at 6 to 8 inches of snowfall. In the Atlanta metro area, we're right on that border there where we could see an inch or we could see a dusting. That's the way it's going to be. And it's going to start very early in the morning. It really won't end until we get to early afternoon. All right? And so you can see where our hand-drawn totals, that's what we like to call them, the hand-drawn totals, what we're thinking in-house here between our meteorologists. Again, 1 to 3 inches just to the east of Atlanta. And then you're looking at 2 to 4 inches further off to the east. And as you make your way up into the Carolinas, that's where you start to see more of those heavier bouts of rain. Bands will be around. And so when we talk about bands, Dan, you're talking about where you get within these bands some heavier amounts, which is why I'm saying locally, at worst for us, would be 2.
Okay.
All right, at worst. But, you know, this comes in very early in the morning, right? I call it the wee hours. You're talking about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning down toward the metro area. And then spreading a little bit further over toward the east. Now, it will be snowing there a lot longer, and so that's why the totals there will be higher. Should be ending in the metro area after about 12 or 1 o'clock. And then by 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, it's all done. We dry out the clouds with that northwest wind. Those winds will be gusting up to 30 miles per hour. And so you factor that with the temperature down into the teens, it's going to feel like the single digits, even below 0 in some spots. That's how cold it's going to be on Sunday morning. So we have an extreme cold watch for the entire state. And so all the counties colored there in blue, which means that we'll see these wind chills anywhere between 5 below 0 and 5. That's the way it's going to feel on your exposed skin. So you definitely want to bundle up, folks. We're looking at temperatures, again, in the 20s on Saturday. Sunday, right near the freezing mark, 45. We'll rebound a little bit as we get into Monday, and then the 50s will come back to us as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week.
Pardon my ignorance. When I think snowstorms, I typically think of something coming in from the west, like it forms in the Rockies. Yep. We have days to prepare for it. Mm-hmm. This thing's coming off the ocean. How often does that happen?
Not often, right? You get some times where you get this cold air that comes down the United States, and you get the area of low pressure that forms off to our east. Now, if you're going to picture it, we get counterclockwise flow around an area of low pressure. So as it moves up the eastern seaboard, it's bringing the Atlantic moisture back on land. Okay. That's why it's coming from the north down to the south. All right, if that makes some sense, right? Fortunately for us, it's not going to be as close. Now, if it was closer to us, we'd see higher numbers.
Right.
Right. Same thing happened. We were talking about yesterday in '93.
Yeah.
That bomb cyclone came up. Oh yeah, man. That was a monster. Wow. That was a monster. A deep area of low pressure drew in all this moisture, and it was already cold And so it just piled up, man, to good 10, 17 inches, It was
Man.
easy. Up and down the eastern seaboard. That was crazy.
You just never know.
No, you don't.
What a fun, exciting job you got, Jesse.
Well, if I made as much as Reams made,
yeah.
then it'd be different.
Man, pick that man off the floor from his laughter. All right. Chesley, thanks,
Take care,
man.
guys.
All right, good luck this weekend. Reams, what are we talking about next? Should we do winter preps? All right, let's talk about how the roads are looking for folks this weekend. You heard the forecast from Chesley. Now, if you need to get out and hit up the roads at any point, you're going to want to know how treated they are. Let's get this report from Molly Oak.
The trucks come in so cars can get out.
We prepare for this months in advance. We have dry runs. We have our crews out ready to go over the summer, making sure all the equipment's ready to go, make sure all the brine's ready to go, all the machines are working properly, and that's what we prepare for, times like these.
This is one of GDOT's salt barns. GDOT says all of the brine trucks are refilled and ready to go with 2 million gallons of brine for the state. GDOT says that's the same amount they had prepped for last weekend, which it considers full capacity.
We're right back to it. We have 400,000 gallons up here in District 1 ready to go.
GDOT says the initial focus, critical routes.
Which will include I-85, 985, and all the way north and northeast to Athens, Clark County, as that's one of the most anticipated hit counties coming into this weekend with snow.
But it says it won't brine the entire road.
So we're specifically going to be focusing on the outside lanes first to ensure that we can cover more area, as much area as possible.
Speaking of coverage, GDOT says it has crews working around the clock. Right now they're on regular hours, but GDOT says they're prepared for 12-hour shifts, even working 24/7 if needed. Molly Oak, 11Alive News.
All right, the crew's going to be out there getting ready. Let's bring in Doug, who's always watching the roads, our local expert. How are you feeling about this weekend?
Here's the deal. Rachel and I, and she was on the anchor desk the last 2 days. That's why I've been here in this seat in 9 and 10 o'clock hours. Rachel it just experienced her first Atlanta storm, winter storm.
Yeah.
And we both gave drivers an A. Maybe not an A plus. Just got to have some room, right? Right. But we gave them an A because people stayed off of the roads. But a lot of people didn't get what they expected. And I know Chesley was kind of talking through his teeth about that, like, oh, you're going to get mad at me. I told you that there's variants of this. And it's like this weekend, we actually could have stuff stick to the roads. It seems like there's going to be snow, but not crazy. People need to do the same thing. If we have just a little bit extra traffic, it could be a real disruption to treating the roads and then, of course, to first responders if people start spinning out. So let's keep it that A grade this weekend, hunker down Saturday, and no reason to go moving too fast on Sunday either. That's what I would say.
All right. Well, what are you watching this morning traffic-wise?
Yeah. And then today, before we even get to that, a hole opened up at the 285 South Bridge overnight. In fact, I was looking at it. Our Cody Alcorn was talking about this in our breaking news inter-station chat, if you will, about 10 o'clock last night. I think it opened up before that, even in the evening hours. And here's some drone video our photojournalist Stephen Boise shot. He actually shot updated video. He shot it twice this morning. And here it is. Only a left lane's open. Crews are standing in that hole trying to repair it. There's a wood frame built out in there. And I just texted with GDOT spokesperson Natalie Dale. They have not begun pouring concrete in yet. They're still working on the structures under the pavement, like the rebar. All right, so that's serious work. The hope was earlier today that it would be open by 2 p.m., but that's not looking like to be the case. I mean, I hate to speculate, but that they were hoping to start pouring this stuff by 8 a.m., and that still hasn't happened. So 285 South with just a left lane open is a mess. Look at this jam. You're on and off the brakes basically back to Riverside Drive. Riverside's exit 24. South Cobb is exit 15. That's 9 miles. All right, it's about 5 or 6 miles of that dark red past 75, and that just keeps sending extra traffic south into downtown Atlanta as the alternate route, and even 85 and 400 are backed up too. Now, part of the reason why there is the next slide over, because we've just had a crash and then a spill from this morning clear. Remember when I was here last half hour, we were showing maybe it was just a right lane that was blocked? Well, they pulled away in the last 10 minutes. All lanes have opened, 285 South at Covington Highway. So 285 South is in recovery mode here down from Highway 78, and that's part of also the reason you're seeing that extra southbound traffic into town. But that problem on the west side perimeter, 285 South, will be with us for hours more, and I'm sure affect the Friday PM drive, so stay with us.
All right, Doug, and I hope you'll stay with us. We've
Yeah.
got an interview right now with Nathan Johnson with Northeast Georgia DOT, and I'd love for you to chime in with any questions you might have.
Yeah, for sure.
Nathan, good morning to you, sir. Great to be with you. Where are you joining us from this morning?
Yeah, good morning. I'm out in the field. I'm at our brine facility up in Franklin County, where crews have been working around the clock this morning, treating the roads, coming in, filling up, and getting back out there.
So tell me about the prep work that it takes leading up to a snow event versus what you guys dealt with last weekend.
Yeah, so last weekend was ice. This weekend, snow. Operations remain the same. We have crews ready to go on 12-hour shifts. We'll be working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., treating the roadways, and then we'll be getting ready to plow for snow this weekend.
Now, last week, there's a lot of Northeast focus. It seems to be Eastern again. This is Doug Turnbull talking. I know we talked a good bit during the events last Sunday as well. Is there a particular area, or is everything kind of going to get treated the same interstate-wise, like all of Metro Atlanta, all of Northeast Georgia, or is there extra focus being put in another spot?
Well, I mean, right now we're focused on Northeast Georgia up here in District 1. Metro Atlanta is getting treated. They started operations last night, I believe, at around 10 p.m. And through the early morning. Up here, we started at around 7 a.m. But we're treating the roads with brine, just like we did last weekend. We're ready for anything.
So if the snow starts falling around 3:30 or 4 a.m. around Metro Atlanta, around what time would you expect the worst of conditions here? And then, same question for the Northeast counties where you're familiar.
Yeah, I'm obviously not a meteorologist, but we expect the snowfall to come in early this or tomorrow morning, I should say, heading into tonight and tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, that is, and we'll have crews ready to go tonight and tomorrow morning. But yeah, we expect most of the snowfall to happen tomorrow morning early.
And then, is there a difference in how you pre-treated with brine? But is there a difference in your approach to treating last week what was mainly thought of to be ice, and then this week snow? Is there a different type of plow, or do you I know that may seem like a dumb question, but do you put a different material? I know that a lot of salt was used last week. Will we be going to calcium chloride to do ice melt? Like what is, we're getting to the grains here, I guess.
Yeah. No, right now we're just treating with brine, obviously for pre-treating. Once the snow gets here, we'll monitor the road conditions, and we'll apply whatever material needs to be placed. I'm not sure of any specific materials at this time that I can speak on, but we will have more updates for you guys throughout the weekend.
Nathan, I was talking with your colleague Natalie Dale just about the ice storm, and I said, what grade would you have given Atlanta drivers last week? She said a 9 out of 10. The only reason it wouldn't be a 10 is because the people who were out there were going too fast.
That's true.
And Doug just a minute ago said, I'd give everybody an A. What would you say about the drivers up in the northeast corridor of the state? I mean, did you kind of encounter the same sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, Doug was up here in Hall County this past weekend, so he got to see a lot of the drivers out on the roadway. And by a lot, I mean, there was none, but the drivers that he did see, he got to see what I saw. I'd say, yeah, I'd give him an A plus. They really listened to our message, and we're so grateful for that. It made it easy for our crews to work throughout and quickly. A lot of people might be saying, well, it wasn't as bad as they said it was going to be. Well, we have to attribute that to our crews working hard around the clock. And we have to thank the general public for staying off the roadways and giving our crews the space to work. And we hope for the same this weekend.
That's for sure. And I think surfaces more than trees and wires may be what we're looking at here. So, Nathan, if you had just a word of advice about a period of non-travel, okay? We know when you're treating the roads, we don't want people out behind those brine trucks and trying to pass them, okay? And I saw that brine treatment when I was on the way in from Brookhaven and Chamblee this morning on 85, Claremont, Northern Hills. We don't want people trying to pass these trucks. But what's kind of a period to circle for now, based on what we know now, as, hey, just stay off of these Northeast Georgia roads?
Yeah, I'd say early Saturday morning, 12 a.m. and further into Saturday and potentially Sunday morning. Again, we'll know more as the snow comes in this weekend, but I'd say definitely early tomorrow morning and into the whole day tomorrow, we advise everyone to stay off the roads. And if you have to be on the roads, please use caution and please give our crews the space to work.
Amen.
All right, Nathan Johnson, GDOT, thanks. Good luck this week and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk throughout the weekend, I'm sure. Appreciate it. Okay, coming up in just a few minutes, we have some breaking news we need to get to. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will see you on the other side of that break just 2 minutes away. All right, I told you we got some breaking news. We have several breaking stories. In fact, this wasn't even the one I was talking about, but this just came in during the commercial break. A judge in Manhattan has just ruled that Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Health CEO Brian Thompson, the judge has ruled that Mangione should not face the death penalty, of course, if he gets convicted on federal charges in that CEO's killing. Obviously, this decision is going to be a loss for federal prosecutors. This whole time, they had been adamant about pursuing the death penalty in this case, a case that captured international attention when there was a manhunt for the killer. Authorities say it's Mangione. They, seized several items from his backpack, including a handgun at the time of his arrest, a loaded magazine, and a red notebook. Key pieces of evidence that authorities say tie him to that killing. And again, the big news this morning coming out of that courtroom, Mangione will not be facing the death penalty for allegedly killing United Health CEO Brian Thompson. All right, now we got to get to some breaking news from back here a little closer to home. And this information just coming in from Rockdale County. And I'm going to put up the full news release for you here because there's a very important picture that I need everybody to take a look at right now on the right-hand side of your screen. And really, this is just a heartbreaking story. This is a picture of a young child, they believe around 8 years old, what they believe that young child would have looked like had he not been found dead back in November in the middle of some woods off Honey Creek Road and Tucker Mill Road. They found some skeletal remains. They determined it to be human. They determined those skeletal remains belonged to a child no older than 8. They did a forensic facial approximation, and that's how they came up with this photo of what this 8-year-old child may look like. We don't yet know how this child died. We don't know the cause and the manner of death, whether this was natural causes, whether this was murder, whether the child was dumped there in the woods. I mean, clearly so many questions in this case, including the fact that it's been 10 weeks and nobody has reported this child missing. And I think a question many people across Georgia now asking, who is this child? How does a child go missing for weeks, 10 weeks, and nobody notice? A school, a daycare, a family, neighbors, extended family, friends? Right now, deputies don't know who this child is or how that child died, but somebody out there does. So if you recognize who this child could be, you're asked to call the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office. I'm going to give you a phone number for Corporal Ware. Corporal Ware could be reached at 770-278-8114. If they get a name could bring answers in this case, and answers could bring justice. But right now, a lot of unanswered questions in this case. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We thank you for watching 11Alive Plus here from the Streaming Center. With you for the next 40 minutes, following breaking news as it happens. And we just brought you two big ones. Back in 2. Hey, we're back with some more breaking news at 10:22 this morning, dealing with the Winter Olympics now just days away. But perhaps the biggest star in that Olympics now likely not to be skiing on the national stage. Lindsey Vonn injured and airlifted after a crash. Reams, I know you've been following this closely for the last 30 minutes. What have we learned?
So lots coming on this in the last few minutes. If my computer will bear with me here we go. What we know so far, she crashed on the course today in Switzerland. It's her final event before the Olympics. Those Olympics starting next Friday right here on 11Alive. We're told the conditions were pretty rough out there. She lost control and slid into some safety netting. You're seeing AP images from this event. There is video, and unfortunately not able to show you that here on streaming only. We'll have that over on 11Alive on midday. We're told after receiving some medical attention, she was able to ski down the rest of the course, but was noticeably favoring one of her knees, then airlifted off the mountain to receive further medical treatment. She retired a few years ago. I believe it was back in 2019. Yes, it was, due to chronic illnesses, but made her comeback about a year ago, at the age of 40. She's 41 now, had a bunch of knee surgery to eliminate that pain. She was hoping that 2026 was going to be her final Olympics.
Yeah.
She wanted to honor her late mother with that very unfortunate news here. She's the most successful female alpine ski racer in history, would have been the oldest woman to compete in the Winter Olympics. Hopefully she is still able to be able to do that.
And yeah, I mean, when I heard about this crash, just being days out, I just wrote her off. Being airlifted from a crash,
Yeah.
it sounds bad on paper. But we don't yet have the diagnosis. I guess she's probably getting looked at by a team of doctors right now, probably the very best in the world, I might add. So I guess there is a chance she comes back and competes. We just don't know for certain right now, Reeves.
We don't know for certain yet. We're hoping. Chloe Kim, snowboarder, this happened to, it was 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
She was practicing on the half pipe, landed weird, messed up her shoulder. We're told she's going to be able to compete. Hopefully this is not one of those things where it's just too close to the Olympics to where she
Right.
won't be able to do it. But keeping tabs on this, looking for reaction now across the Olympic community.
God, I guess it's less than a week away, right?
Friday is the opening
All
ceremony.
right, well, 1 week from today.
Her first event, February 8th.
All right. Reems, thanks for that help on the breaking news. Let's get back to some news a little closer to home. The big news of the week out of Fulton County was that FBI raid at the election office. The feds coming in, taking hundreds of boxes worth of evidence. Inside those boxes, ballots from the 2020 election, a judge signing off on the search warrant. But now the fallout continues. A lot of people in Fulton County with questions. What exactly are in those boxes? Who has access to them? And what's next for this case? Let's get more from Ariana Manise.
Residents are asking, what did the FBI take and why? As we're learning more about what was inside the 700 boxes seized from the Fulton County Elections Hub. We heard from residents at a town hall hosted by Fulton County Commissioner Mo Ivory a day after the FBI served a warrant at the election center. We're learning the agency's evidence response team removed 700 boxes of material, including ballots, tabulator tapes, ballot images, and voter records from the 2020 election. Now, those are records that Fulton County says were reviewed multiple times following allegations of fraud tied to that election. We spoke to a longtime elections worker who was at last night's town hall, who says that she was concerned to see so many documents removed.
I was a little worried when they picked up all those documents also, because my name is probably on a lot of that stuff that we have to sign. So we double check, we triple check, we quadruple every check with our name on every little bit.
Now, county leaders are making it clear that that search warrant was for the elections department and not to the county in its entirety. Meanwhile, not everyone is against that raid that we saw go down at the elections hub. We heard from a Republican member of the elections board who says that she believes that the records that were seized are some of those same ones that they've subpoenaed for, and they plan to confirm that with the FBI. Reporting from Fulton County, I'm Mariana Manise for 11Alive.
Another one of those debates that seems to be split along party lines. A case we'll continue to follow. A case we've been following for a while now is the murder of Laken Riley. If you thought it was over, not exactly. The man convicted of killing her, now back in an Athens courtroom, appearing before a judge in 33 minutes. That's Jose Ibarra. He and his attorneys are going to be asking a judge for a new trial this morning. They want his conviction overturned, his life sentence thrown out, and a new trial granted. One argument they're going to be making in about half an hour is that the judge improperly denied a motion to suppress cell phone evidence. But here's the thing. He waived his right to a jury trial. Instead, it was heard by a judge. They had a bench trial. And the very judge who heard his trial, who convicted him, is now going to be the one deciding his fate this morning when it comes to this appeal. Ibarra serving life in prison without parole for killing Riley. Back in February of 2024, she was a local college student. She was jogging on UGA's campus when she was abducted and murdered. Ibarra was in the country illegally from Venezuela. That murder led to heightened tensions in the national debate around immigration. And it also led to the Laken Riley Act, which was actually signed a year ago last night to the date. And it expands federal authority to deport undocumented immigrants who commit crimes. So we're watching for that. What comes of that hearing in 30 minutes? Again, Ibarra and his defense team, I'm told a new defense team since the murder trial, going to be asking a judge to overturn the conviction, to give them a new shot at a trial, and we will let you know what happens. Shaping up to be a busy morning here on 11Alive Plus from the Streaming Center. Our goal every morning is to bring you headlines as they happen, breaking news with context and perspective, and interviews with newsmakers and community leaders. And that's what we're doing this morning, especially as we prep for this winter storm coming this weekend. We talked to GDOT. We talked with Georgia Power this morning. My friend Chesley McNeil is just walking in, so instead of taking a little commercial break, we'll just ask Chesley to pop in here in just a few seconds to talk about the weather ahead. But Reams, can we pop up a look at stocks real quick, because those have since taken a bit of a nosedive as the Dow now down 220 points. You know, there's no telling what traders on Wall Street are reacting to this morning, as could be, though, the new Fed chair pick from the president. President Trump, within the last couple hours, announcing that he is picking Kevin Warsh to be the next Fed chair. President Trump this morning saying, "I've known Kevin for a long period of time and have no doubt he will go down as one of the great Fed chairmen, maybe the best." But, of course, he has to go through Senate confirmation, so still a long way out there. Jay Powell still remaining the Fed chair for now. All right, Chesley, appreciate you hustling in here to update us on what things are looking like for the weekend. And you're saying things really haven't changed all that much.
No, but there is one change. The Weather Service has decided to extend the winter weather warning to cover Atlanta.
Oh.
Right? And so let's get right to that map right there. So now you see how it's extended a little bit further over toward the west now. Mm-hmm. So that includes the Atlanta area right now. And it added more of those counties down to the south. So Coweta County was not included in it. Fayette County was not included in it. Troop Meriwether counties were not included in that. Now they're included in the winter weather advisory. And so the thought process from the Weather Service is that more of that snow will start to make its way a little bit further to the west. Now, we're still not talking about huge amounts here, right? We're still talking about, at worst in Atlanta, up to 2 inches of snowfall. The further east you go, obviously, the more you're going to see, 2 to 4 inches over toward the Athens area, over toward Augusta, those areas there. So, again, that is the fresh update from the National Weather Service. And you can see, even from our snow model here, it's about the same. It lines up about the same. It does fill in a little bit more down toward Noonan as far as like a trace of snow. But you look at Atlanta, it's still the same. You look at Athens, it's still about the same. You're going to have these bands that show a little higher. So where you see those little pinks within that purple over there, like little bands that will have some higher amounts. So locally, for example, in Atlanta, you may get up to 2 inches. Generally speaking, we're talking still a trace to 1. Right? And so that's what we're looking at as far as the snowfall totals go. I still believe that the big story for the weekend will be the cold air. That's what's going to get you. All right. And so if you plan on venturing out, you can wait. You can wait the snow out. It's going to start overnight, right? Going into Saturday morning. And so it should be out of the way by the afternoon. And then you're thinking, okay, cool, I can go out. But it's going to be windy and it's going to be very, very cold on the outside. So here's how it times out. Forecast track model shows by 1 a.m. that we're looking at some snow up to the far northeast, a little bit over into the northwest, then down toward the metro area by the time we get to 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. As we head into 8, 9 o'clock, that snow is still with us. And then by 10, 11, it starts to leave the metro area, starts to slide a little further over toward the east. Out of the entire viewing area by the time we get to 9, 10 o'clock at night. So that's a done deal. Mm-hmm. And then those northwest winds start kicking up, dries those clouds out. We get the sunshine back in here for Sunday, but it will be raw Sunday morning. We're talking about temperatures down into the teens. You factor in the wind with that, which will be around 20, 25 miles per hour. It's going to make it feel like -5 to 5, right? So you're going to have some zero feel-like temperatures on the outside on Sunday morning, and really not expecting that to begin to taper off until we get to the afternoon on Sunday. We will get the sunshine in, so whatever freezes should begin to dry up as far as on the roads are concerned. The grassy surfaces may still be a little bit chunky, if you will, as you walk on that. But we'll stay cold right on through Monday morning. So we're looking to rise, starting tonight, right on through Monday, you're looking to rise only briefly above the freezing mark on Sunday afternoon at 33.
Yeah.
Right? And you may hit that for an hour or two and then boom, right back down again. And so that's why we have that 11Alive weather impact alert, because, again, the cold air is going to be with us all weekend long. Snow only around for a half the day on Saturday. And, again, totaling about a dusting to an inch in the metro, and then higher amounts over toward the east. So, for example, Athens, we've been using that as an example, 2 to 4 inches easy.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah.
All right, as the pastors are watching this morning, thinking about Sunday service, I mean, what do you advise? What should they be watching for? Is it mostly going to be cold to be worried about for your congregants, or is it going to be the tricky roads?
Cold, definitely. And the later you wait for your services, like, so for my example, my church, we have 2 services, 7:30, and then we have a 10:30. And so they've canceled the 7:30 but kept the 10:30 because the thought is that as the sun begins to rise, whatever's on the roads will start to melt off. It will be cold, but hopeful that people will just manage that by putting on some bigger coats and so forth and so on. But if you have an older congregation, you may want to just say, hey, no, don't even bother coming out in this, you know, just to protect the older congregation. And if you have that virtual option like our schools have, go ahead and do that. I mean, just keep everybody safe.
Right.
I would say always err on the side of caution.
Okay.
Yep.
Appreciate you, Chesley.
Appreciate
Good.
you. Have a good weekend, my friend.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I'm going to be sleeping in watching the Flurries from my window tomorrow.
Turn your phone off.
I'll be watching Chesley tomorrow morning, as you all
Reeves,
can
I want to
too.
see pictures. Okay.
Reeves, in case you haven't noticed, if you're just tuning in, he is set to run a 15K on Sunday morning. What, 7:30 shotgun start?
Something like that.
You know they make treadmills these days.
So, you know? True.
We'll see if that happens. Hey, great to be with you here on 11Alive Plus, with you for the next 25 minutes here from the streaming center. We're going to be talking measles cases coming up in a few minutes with a local author of an author of a new article out there from a public health publication. It's very interesting what we're seeing in South Carolina. A huge outbreak in measles. How does it affect us in Metro Atlanta? How should we be thinking about the outbreak? We're going to ask her that. That and more coming up as we continue to follow breaking news, and what a morning it's been for that. You're watching 11Alive Plus. A measles outbreak in South Carolina is raising concerns across the Southeast, including here in Atlanta. There is a new article out this week on healthbeat.org. You're looking at it now, detailing how the South Carolina measles outbreak grew from 5 to 789 cases. Joining us now is the journalist behind that article, Allison Young, the senior national reporter with HealthBeat, to explain why this is worth watching for us here in Georgia. Allison, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So what's happening with the measles outbreak now in South Carolina?
So South Carolina has been a hotspot for measles starting in October. And this is an outbreak that grew very slowly through the fall. And then after the winter holidays, absolutely exploded in January. And one of the things that we're documenting at healthbeat.org is exactly how that happened.
And what are you finding? What is the how behind this spread?
There are a couple of factors that are leading to this. Number one is in South Carolina, as has been the case in communities across the United States, there has been declining numbers of people who are fully vaccinated against the measles virus. This is a virus that is highly contagious, but the vaccine is extremely effective. But there have been pockets of communities where the vaccination rates have fallen below 95%. That's a key number that the CDC and other experts say is needed to prevent the sustained spread of this virus in local communities. And so one of the things experts look at is the vaccine rates in individual schools. And in the areas around Spartanburg County, which is in the northwest part of the state of South Carolina, there are many schools that are below 90%, and some as low as in just 20 to 25% coverage of their students with the measles vaccine.
And why is that? I mean, we're a few years removed from COVID-19. Is there evidence that we're just experiencing virus fatigue, vaccine fatigue? I mean, is there any reporting to suggest that, or is there something more at play here?
There has been, I think it's important to remember that the majority of parents still are fully vaccinating their children. But there has been concern because of misinformation, disinformation, that somehow that there may be safety issues or ethical issues with the use of certain vaccines. But this is one of those tried and true vaccines that experts say we have used for decades with great success, that has a very good safety profile. But there have been, communities and pockets of people who have chosen not to vaccinate.
How should we be thinking about this spread here in Atlanta? Such a mobile area. Everybody travels through Atlanta, whether it's the airport or you're passing through here. And this is a neighboring state, by the way. So how should we be thinking about this virus here in Metro Atlanta?
Now is the time for people in Atlanta to be planning for the potential for this outbreak to come to Atlanta and to spread in Atlanta. It's notable. I worked in Atlanta for a number of years. Interstate 85 runs directly from Spartanburg County into the heart of Atlanta. And we are already seeing cases that are spreading from the South Carolina outbreak to other states. There have been documented cases in states such as Washington State and North Carolina. And as you mentioned, we are a very mobile society. So you can expect that this virus will continue to spread.
You mentioned you lived and worked, reported here in Atlanta, in South Carolina now. I'm just curious to know, anecdotally, how have you noticed people talking about the measles now versus maybe even a month or two ago in your state?
It's very interesting. I've spent quite a bit of time up in Spartanburg County recently, and one of the things that's a bit surprising is that there is not as much discussion of measles as one would expect. There is a bit of some of the organizations that have had outbreaks tied to them. There have been a number of schools, a number of churches where there have been significant exposure events. Those organizations, for the most part, are not talking about this publicly. And one of the things that the Department of Public Health has been trying to do is really raise the profile that now is the time for people to seek out vaccination. But it's been a challenge in the community. They have sent mobile vaccination clinics to the neighborhoods where the outbreak is occurring, but have had relatively few people take advantage of that. There have been other more successful vaccine drives that have just been going on in the community as a whole, but it's a real challenge. And today at around 1 o'clock, the state of South Carolina will release its latest numbers. And unfortunately, if things continue as they have, we're going to see another big jump in cases today.
And if we see that big jump, how close is the U.S. to losing its official elimination status? I mean, could we be days away at this point?
That is a really important question. So the United States has been declared to be measles free since since 2000. But we had a very large outbreak in the state of Texas, which was one of the largest in decades, and now South Carolina has surpassed it, that began in late January last year. And whether or not we lose our status as having measles eliminated here is going to depend on a lot of really interesting scientific work that's being done by the CDC and others to trace the genetics of the virus. It needs to be sustained spread of the virus, and it's still not clear whether what's going on in South Carolina and in some of the other states, such as Arizona and New Mexico, is directly tied to the transmissions that began in Texas. So that's a scientific question that's still unclear.
Okay. Allison, thank you for your time. While we have you, will you just tell us a little bit about HealthBeat? It was my first time on your website last night, and I got to say, you guys are doing some impressive journalism. You got a free newsletter. What kind of stories can folks come to you for?
Thank you so much. Yes, we are a new news organization, and we are unique in that we focus on public health issues. Our news is free, and it's available for other news organizations to share. And so we focus on all of the kinds of issues that affect everyone's daily lives. And we would love for you to check us out. We're at healthbeat.org.
Well, we are happy to amplify your work here at 11Alive, and we hope you come back on the show sometime, Allison.
Thank you. I'd love that. Thank you for having me.
Very good. Have a good weekend, and we'll be watching for those numbers coming up at 1 o'clock today. Should be very interesting to see what comes out of South Carolina, whether that outbreak gets more contained or continues to spread. We're going to take a quick break. We'll see you again in 2 minutes. Some news for you now on the national front. President Trump has said that the administration has no plans now to draw down federal agents in Minneapolis. That statement seeming to contradict with his border czar, Tom Homan, who yesterday said he plans to withdraw resources. So what's going on in Minneapolis? Let's get more from NBC's Maggie Vespa.
Hey there, lots of changes here in the last 24 hours. We will start with the president's apparent pivot, appearing to dash just hours-old hopes at that point that at least some federal officers might be leaving Minneapolis, telling reporters overnight, quote, "We'll do whatever we can to keep our country safe." But when asked to clarify whether the administration is indeed pulling officers back, he answered, no, not at all. This less than 12 hours after border czar Tom Homan announced plans to start drawing down resources, adding he's in Minneapolis because the mission has not gone, quote, perfectly. Also new overnight, embattled DHS Secretary Kristi Noem speaking out about the shooting of ICU nurse Alex Preddy by federal officers and asked if she could have handled things differently with that initial statement that DHS put out that labeled Preddy a domestic terrorist. She said, "We believe we can always do better and seek to do that every day." So amid all of this kind of confusion and these changes here on the ground, protests obviously continuing, with organizers calling for a nationwide day of action, both school walkouts and economic blackouts today and tomorrow. We're seeing events planned from LA to Atlanta to New York and, of course, several here in the Minneapolis area. Back to you.
Maggie Vespa reporting. Check the stocks right now as we go to Wall Street. The Dow down 160 points. Kind of been hovering through that area all morning long, although the futures this morning down a whole lot more than that. By about 7 a.m. this morning, President Trump announces new Fed pick to lead the Fed as Kevin Warsh, and it appears investors reacting favorably to that. Let's get more now from NBC's Alice Barr with details from Washington.
Hi there. In a highly anticipated announcement, President Trump naming Kevin Warsh as his pick for chairman of the Federal Reserve Board. Once approved by the Senate, Warsh would head up the nation's monetary policy on critical issues like setting interest rates with impacts on your mortgage and credit card rates. President Trump has been very vocal about wanting lower interest rates and has frequently pressured the current chairman, Jerome Powell, whose term ends in May, to cut rates. The president has signaled the next chair will be more aligned with that goal. On social media, he said Warsh will go down as one of the great Fed chairmen, maybe the best, and that he was out of central casting. Warsh was a governor on the Fed's board under the George W. Bush administration, the youngest ever named to that position. He served during the 2008 financial crisis, getting some hard-duty experience there. Now, he couldn't unilaterally cut interest rates, with the rest of the Fed's board still getting a vote, and lingering concerns over whether that would force inflation up. Democrats are sure to press Warsh during his confirmation process on whether he'll maintain the Federal Reserve's independence from political pressure, a key tenet that economists say is critical to stability. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And during that confirmation process, Senator Tom Tillis from North Carolina said that he is going to block the Fed chair pick unless the Powell probe is dropped. So something to watch on that front. Reams is watching something also unfolding right now from our nation's capital. Reams, what do you got?
Yeah, we're following some news that we're just getting in the last few minutes. NBC's Kristen Welker telling us that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche will be speaking here in just a few minutes. You're taking a live look at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. We are told that this press conference news announcements will be related to the Epstein files. That's according to two senior administration officials telling NBC's Kristen Welker. We'll keep tabs on this. Not entirely sure what related to the Epstein files this will be, but allegedly, according to two sources, related to the Epstein files, coming up here in just about 10 minutes.
All right. Nothing like a Friday news dump.
Nothing like a Friday news dump.
You just never know what you're going to get on a Friday morning or a Friday afternoon before the weekend. A lot of time, folks just like to spill out all the news in and there, and it's feeling like that's what's been happening this morning. We have brought you one breaking news story after another. I was telling you all morning long, we were also watching that story out of Athens. Jose Ibarra asking for a new trial this morning, was set to appear before a judge in about 8 minutes. That's the Venezuelan man here illegally accused of killing Laken Riley on the campus of UGA a few years ago. He was convicted, given a life sentence. Now his attorney's set to go before a judge to say, hey, wait a minute, we'd like to ask for a new trial. But just getting this word in from our crew there, apparently there is an issue getting Ibarra from the prison, which is a couple hours away. So what was supposed to start at 11 may now be closer to 12:30, more likely 1 o'clock today. So we'll keep an eye on that. This is some video of Jose Ibarra when he was in court last. Again, it's been a while. His conviction came down in 2024 after the murder earlier that year in February. The murder led to heightened tensions in the national debate over immigration, also led to the Laken Riley Act, which expands federal authority to deport undocumented immigrants. who commit crimes. Will it lead to a new trial, though? That's the question this morning, and it's going to have to be on hold for at least a couple more hours. We'll keep an eye on things out of Athens. In the meantime, I think we're going to take a quick break. We're going to reset after this, and we'll let you know what we're watching for coming up at midday. Keep it right here on 11Alive Plus, because the news does not stop. We'll see you in a few minutes. All right, all eyes on the nation's capital tonight to see whether the government can avert a possible government shutdown. Let's listen in to Hakeem Jeffries speaking right now with reporters, see what he has to say on the matter. That is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. We are get his audio, and we'll bring you that as soon as we can. In the meantime, I can tell you that Congress is scrambling to save some bipartisan spending deal before Friday night deadline. Let's listen in.
And there are millions of documents that haven't been released. And the only thing that the public has seen are about 13,000. Does that sound like compliance? That's not compliance. That's a brazen violation of their legal obligations, the Department of Justice's legal obligations to release documents. And so we'll see whether there's a resolution prior to a so-called criminal contempt vote, but my position on it remains the same. Yeah.
Thank you. I know you said that the deal hasn't come out of the Senate yet, but it's looking very likely that it will be 5 funding bills and a 2-week DHS CR. If that is what comes to the House after Senator Graham drops his hold, will you support that?
Well, that question has already been asked and answered in a variety of different ways. One thing is clear, is that Leader Thune and Mike Johnson and Republicans originally took the position that the 5 bipartisan bills were not going to be separated. The fact that the 5 bipartisan bills are going to be separated in and of itself, right out of the gate, is a victory for the American people. Simultaneously, we have to evaluate, is there a real path toward making the dramatic changes at the Department of Homeland Security necessary to stop the use of taxpayer dollars from brutalizing everyday Americans and killing American citizens, like Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy? That's a question to be evaluated, particularly if we find ourselves in a situation where there's going to be an intense negotiation, where Democrats have drawn a hard line in the sand. We have not been shy or bashful in articulating what will be necessary, including but not limited to judicial warrants and an explicit prohibition on the detention and deportation of American citizens, and an end to the roving bands of ICE agents violently targeting people all across America.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries speaking there, touching on Minneapolis and also the Epstein files, because in just a couple of minutes, we are